others to join. But yeah, today we have a special guest, Kevin, the co-founder of Nervos. So yeah, I guess midway in the conversation you'll be able to ask some questions, and yeah, we'll be covering today some general news. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for kicking it off. I guess do we have everyone who was speaking from the Nervo side? Everybody's up on stage.
I think so. I think Eric might be joining us at some point, but
Okay.
I think for the most part we're here.
All right. Yeah. So here we are, another episode of Hashing It Out. Thanks everyone for tuning in. So let's start going through the topics, and the first thing I see on the list is that chain analysis has been running a blockchain explorer and scraping IP addresses of people come and they'll check the blockchain explorer, look at their address, looking for a transaction, and then chain analysis is bringing that in and using it as a data point as they analyze the blockchains to connect transactions. Privacy is I think it's pretty important, but I'm curious what you guys think about privacy in crypto.
Right. Well, I'm absolutely for privacy, but in this one case, I have a very mixed opinion on this subject. Because, well, first off, the site that they're talking about here is walletexplorer.com. You haven't heard of it, and neither has anybody else. So I'm not sure exactly how effective this is, but it's a honeypot is what it is. So whenever anybody goes to this site, it's recording all the IP addresses and whatever they searched for. And I guess they've been using this to link to give more information to law enforcement, so they can actually make links to criminals who have been very sloppy and are not using a proxy or something when they're accessing this. But we are talking about something that is off chain here. So this is off chain privacy, a privacy violation, I guess, if you wanted to call it that. But at the same time, there is no enforcement that says you have to use this site, right? This is one where we haven't really heard about too much. It's not one of the popular ones. And when we say that law enforcement needs to be able to use tools that are not through censorship or something like that, this is kind of an example of that to me. So it's a very mixed subject in my mind.
Yeah, I do like it as like a contrast to to say like law enforcement needs the banking system and needs to be able to cut people off. This is an example of like other tools, but it makes me think about like, well, what if, in this time in the future, every block explorer, we knew that, they were, the same way we know that Facebook tracks all of us. What if you had trouble? I guess you could always run a node. I guess that's your fix at the end of the day. Just look at your own node. Don't use a blockchain explorer.
But in the similar tones, there was a news 1 week ago where London chief police officer said that we shouldn't have end-to-end encryption in messaging because it makes harder to track criminals. So it's this weird movement for the government to be able to look into everything that we chat about, and it doesn't sound good.
It's all to protect us, right?
It's
I think privacy is the thing of the past.
Go ahead, Eric.
Right? I was gonna say, I think privacy is a thing of the past, and we have to assume that everything is not private by default, right? And that it only is private when we take extra steps to make it so.
Yeah, this is, I think those are the opportunities that we can think of more crypto native way to solve this problem. In a way, like for these companies, if you want to operate in the country and then the law enforcement sort of knock on the door and say, hey, you got to turn over this, here's search warrant or something like that. It's pretty difficult to not, comply. On the other hand, I think what we really need is a way for these folks to say, hey, I would like to comply, but I can't. I don't own anything, right? All these records are fully encrypted, and even I cannot decrypt it. Or all these are on blockchain, so you want me to remove this transaction, I can't. You want me to tell you who this is? I have no idea, right? There's no KYC, there's no registration or anything like that.
Yeah, is that kind of what Apple did? Because I mean, I know Apple's refused repeatedly to turn over any records, which that's why I'm an Apple fan. What do you guys think about that?
I think it would be great if they start encrypting iCloud backups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a step in the right direction compared to, the other brands out there who, yeah. So anyway, that's my perspective.
Yeah, it looks like they are more privacy-oriented company than the competition. At least, I mean, when I think of Google, I always think, for example, about them as a company that analyzes huge data sets and had features enabled before by default, like location tracking in your Google Maps. So at some point, I think in 2018 or 2019, if you were like having Google Maps installed on your phone, you could go back a year in your like history and you have a detailed location where you've been. So yeah, it seems like Apple is more focused on privacy, but on the other hand, they are still doing some weird moves, like this move to like scan every photo on your on your iCloud backup for like child abuse materials. It seems like overkill.
It is an attempt to use technology to I guess to address a problem. I think that the merits of the technology I think are up for argument of because I can't remember exactly how they do it, but it has to do with some fingerprinting of the picture. But I do want to go back to Kevin's sentiment around like if we want to see a change in the world and like people feel that we should have privacy, we do it through technology. And another piece of news that I see is that Coinbase has discontinued their plans to launch a lending program. But if you think about DeFi, there's so many DeFi protocols that are running where people can just get loans permissionlessly. And I did see one tweet that expressed that the SEC commissioner that is, creating these issues for crypto companies, like may be the one of the greatest forces driving decentralization and moves toward things where arguably the way they should be from a purist perspective. So I'm curious what you guys think about that.
I'm personally very against what the SEC has done here, and I do believe that Coinbase shut down their lending program under pressure, basically under duress from the SEC, unjustly, because the SEC, they had been working with the SEC very closely, trying to get clarity around these issues, and the SEC basically shut them down and said, we're going to sue you, without giving much guidance at all. And that's where the real problem here is that this is like really open subject around what is legal and what is not legal, and yet they're saying that they're going to sue the company for offering this product on something where there is no real guidance yet. So I mean, I think that this is the SEC being particularly picky and choosy on this matter, probably because it's Coinbase, because they're so large, because they have this influence, and they're trying to set the tone without precedent, which is where I see the main issue.
Yeah, they're trying to stifle what Coinbase is doing, but Coinbase is in some ways a bank, right?
Yeah, they're custodial, but if they do set a precedence with Coinbase, then that sets a precedence for every other company down the road, which I think is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Without any real clear laws around it or any guidance to them, I mean, whether it's a bank or not a bank, there's really no way for them to know. Did any of you guys see the post by Gary Gensler of the SEC? He posted on Twitter, and he was saying, oh, if you start saving $5 a week and maybe you earn 8% when you're in college, you'll have $130,000 for your retirement. So he's just suggesting that the bank's going to give you 8% and that you can retire on $130,000. The SEC.
Does he take inflation into consideration, or?
No, inflation is not real. We don't need to think about that.
Yeah, taking this guy's advice is a good way to end up broke when you retire.
It is a stark contrast. I mean, I think the regulations are always going to be one step behind the innovation, and I think that that's really what we see when we see, there's another one, a set of Bored Apes sells for $24.4 million in a Sotheby's auction of, people are just creating these assets that are worth millions and billions of dollars, and that is arguably a path to wealth. And then that's a result of innovation. But then we have regulators trying to slow people down and telling college kids to save $5 a week. And I don't know. I mean, my bet is on innovation. I mean, I can understand the criticisms of the regulators, but I don't know. It just seems like the innovation is way too strong, and to me, that the trend looks clear.
Yeah, I mean they're just too slow and too much behind. Technology innovation is already happening, like Silicon Valley innovation is already happening too fast for them. And then, decentralized or blockchain innovation, that's just that's like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
I mean, even compared to Silicon Valley type of innovations. So yeah, I mean, in a way, I mean, I think they are scared, and they just don't know where this will take, and that's probably all they can do. And actually, actual diving into this and draft builds and all that, just that again will be just too slow. So they just open their mouth and make threats and hope that will slow things down.
I did see one stat that there are more employees at Twitter than there are at the SEC. So to get an idea of like
wow.
what they're up against, because they have the entire world developing these things, and yeah, I don't know. I guess they're going to try to continue to keep a handle on it, but it seems like a tough effort.
Yeah, I think they're realizing too that younger and younger people are investing. So maybe that's why they went after kind of the college kids with the $5 a week. Because now, I mean, when I was in college, years ago, nobody thought about buying into a stock or or putting their money to work. Like nobody thought about that. And nowadays, I've got like 14-year-olds asking me, what's the next Dogecoin or what should I invest in? It's just a totally different mentality now. So I think the SEC is like spreading their propaganda and going, a generation younger, hoping they can win people over to the traditional system. But
yeah, I mean, $5 save $5 a week versus buy Dogecoin. I mean, those, when you think about the mind of like a young person, I mean, those are it seems very clear the one that they're going to go for. And they're all digitally native now. It just seems, yeah, way out of touch. This whole video with the $5 a week, because it really did go viral, and I can understand why now.
Right. Well, here's the thing: is like when this guy was a kid, $5 a week was worth a lot more, and that was more sound advice back then. I mean, even when I was a kid, yeah, saving $5 a week, that would have led to much larger gains down the line. But we're seeing rates of inflation that are picking up so rapidly, just not just because of the pandemic, but we're talking about just the diminishing value of money. We know that the government claims 2% inflation, but that it's actually much higher than that. Even at 4% inflation, over the period of a decade, the dollar loses half of its value. Like it just doesn't add up anymore, especially with the massive amounts of inflation that we've seen from the pandemic, which just are not really slowing down. Like there's no way to get out of this without the dollar just completely capitulating. So that $5 just isn't worth anything anymore. And I think there's a lot more people that realize that. I mean, that's one of the biggest moves towards cryptocurrency is it's a lack of trust in the establishments which have held the dominant position for decades and have failed. They've completely failed. I would never use cryptocurrency if the dollar hadn't completely failed here. That's the only reason we're really in it.
Yeah, I think that the problem here is also like in a global consciousness right now, we have like people think that okay, so we have inflation because different reasons, right? So first would be pandemic. Second would be a chip shortage, for example, etc. So I wonder if people are thinking that if chip shortage is going to end and if pandemic is going to end, like I wonder if people are thinking that the prices will go back to normal, because yeah, do you have an opinion on this? Do you think that it's just like inflated, like the prices are inflated because of like printing money, or do you think like if pandemic ends and chip shortage ends, is there a chance for the prices to be back to like more normal prices, especially for electronics, cars, etc.?
I mean,
Well, the chip shortage is absolutely part of it, right? There's the slowdown just in general of materials and supply chain that's led to prices, and I've actually already seen some of that drop. But the inflation is very, very real, and I mean we're seeing that especially in things like food, where it's very clear that we're getting shrinkflation, where the size of the product goes down, the quality goes down, they cheapen the ingredients, but the price stays the same. So you are getting less there. That's very evident in food. And conveniently, the statistics for inflation that the government puts out doesn't include food, of course, because that's one of the metrics, that's one of the areas where it shows up the quickest.
Yeah, it's a market basket. It's like what does eggs and milk and basic necessities cost? But yeah, leading from like inflation on though. I mean, I know we're not totally supposed to be kind of stuck with the financials, but I think a lot of people are also seeing crypto now as a hedge against like a stock market crash. I mean, some of the smartest people I've talked to said, a crash as big as the 1929 one could be coming. And, I know more and more people saying like, hey, like, what are you putting your money in? Like, you're taking your equities out of Robinhood. Like, where are you putting your money? And I'm like, I'm going in crypto. Do you guys ever get asked that question, or has that come up to anybody?
I think I see it as like the equities and crypto, like they're both like driven, like there's bubbles in both probably, but I don't know. There is kind of like that whole thing around if things are going to crash, people move into gold, and I have seen that Bitcoin is now discussed in the same like breath as gold, like in a way that people probably like pushed in the past, but it was never really a reality. But yeah, I do see there is some sort of hedge there.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's seen as kind of an alternative or almost opposite to the stock market option that's not tied to as much of the economy directly, especially in the U.S. And I've seen a lot of people that have said, like, if market crashes, expect Bitcoin to go up, or that's where I'm putting my money. Definitely.
All this talk about inflation is making me look at another headline of 1.6 million Salvadorians are now using the Bitcoin Chivo wallet. I know we've talked a good amount about El Salvador in the past, but I'm curious if you guys have had any other thoughts or anything you want to share about that experiment. I think that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, what about Cuba? Like, from the El Salvador, I think we've talked about that a couple times, but what do you think about Cuba, Matt?
Like, would Bitcoin adoption in Cuba be viable? Is that kind of the
Well, I
question?
think it's happening. People are saying it's
Okay.
going to be it's going to be like a direct, like almost A/B test or split test between the two countries because they're doing it differently. I'm not sure of all the exact details, but if anybody else has any insight, I'd be curious.
I'll do a search quickly.
So I just went to Chivo Wallet page, but it tells me that I'm blocked. So I guess you can only use this when you are in El Salvador.
Yeah, I see that Cuba's central bank now recognizes cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, and this was late August. So it sounds like it's a regulation thing, but the central bank did pass some resolution.
So I think also President of Mexico is recently endorsed Cuba, and yeah, it's weird. It seems like some countries are trying to create a front, maybe against US and economic war, the war against dollars. So just like betting on crypto might be just another part of it.
Yeah, I think anyone who is who could be the subject of economic sanctions, for doing business with a certain entity, you can't shut down, a Bitcoin account. Yeah, I mean, it definitely there's definitely something there in terms of an alternative system.
Yeah, it's true. It's very hard to shut it down, and yeah, U.S. sanctions is never good for those countries that, for example, violate some human rights or something.
So I see another article. The headline is "The U.S. is losing the global race to decide the future of money, and it could doom the almighty dollar." From Time magazine. So I think this article is all about the China DCEP project, the digital RMB, which I guess is, I mean, this is Time magazine, so it's they have their own take, because I don't know, the digital RMB hasn't been too much of a topic of conversation recently, but I guess this is calling attention to the fact that the U.S. Fed has not moved very much in terms of their project, but it does mention El Salvador too. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is more of a headline generator, and like you mentioned, that it definitely is opinionated. And what they're stating is that, so China, they're going forward, they're pushing out their digital version very quickly. They're looking actually at next year, when the Beijing hosts the Winter Olympic Games. They want to basically use that as a test bed. They want it for a world test bed where everybody's allowed to use it. And they've so far, just already, they've conducted more than 5 billion in transactions using their digital currency, and they're considering open up to foreigners very soon. So I mean, they're making headway in pushing this through. Now, the other viewpoint that I've read on the same topic but different writers was that the U.S. is taking a much more conservative approach. They want to get it done right, so they're going a little bit slower here. So I mean, I wouldn't say at this point that I personally have an opinion one way or the other. I mean, the United States is kind of known for not being the quickest mover, but when you're basically still the reserve currency of the world, making sure that you do this right is more important. So hopefully they'll get this right. I mean, I'm hopeful for that. Government doesn't have the greatest track record in making decisions, but I'm still hopeful that they'll do something great with this.
China's sort of a different situation, however, because there are so many well accepted and adopted digital payment methods in China already that, you know, we're pretty much in a cashless society here already for the major part in big cities. Where in the U.S., there is no everyone's still paying in cash or debit card and stuff like that. People are not using other, like PayPal, for example, to buy their groceries. So I think in the US, there's a good chance for adoption, where in China, they're going to have to work really hard to push out the current systems that are being used.
I think that one of the concerns that I've heard from like the Federal Reserve perspective is that they want the banking system to remain decentralized. They don't really want consumers like holding deposits with the Federal Reserve and using like the payment rails of the Federal Reserve. They don't want this CDBC to crowd out the banking, and it's a tight rope to walk. I guess it's on the banks to develop better solutions. You know, like Eric, you were saying in China, like the consumer behavior has already shifted. Now, if the government wants to implement this, they would need to compete against that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to your point earlier, the U.S. is always behind. I mean, I remember we didn't even have chips on our debit cards and credit cards like 10 years after Europe did, which is like crazy because they just don't need it. I think some of it just comes down to like the trust in the U.S. system and the trust in the dollar. And it's almost like the trust in the U.S. has to go below the trust in Bitcoin for that to take over. Do you guys think that will ever happen? I mean, I think it definitely could.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, if you look at what these systems are, I mean, these are really not cryptocurrencies, right? I mean, these are just electronic cash, and then it's just the same electronic cash, whether it's US dollars or Chinese yuan. They're just sent over different systems. And then whether we're talking about the sort of the US dollar losing dominance, or are we talking about either to like Chinese yuan or talk about Bitcoin, I think we need to look at like in the history how the dominance was established, right? I mean, it's not really from because technology, or it's really from, I mean, to be very frank, like the battleships of the U.S. Navy, right? So be able to have that power, the military power, and then be able to sort of force into this current financial system, the world order, if you will. So I mean, unless we see like this change in a significant way, and it's just too early to call the U.S. dollar will not become or keep being the global reserve currency. So yeah, I mean, it took a crisis for this to happen. I think it will take another crisis, like for the world to reshuffle and have a new like financial order, built on a different system, and yeah, we're not seeing that yet.
Yeah, it is a good question of what would it take to displace the dollar in terms of thinking of it as an event, not a gradual progression. Because I've heard people express that the U.S. can continue printing because there's adequate demand for just more dollars around the world, and thinking about that dynamic, whether people want to continue making cryptocurrencies or other countries want to issue digital currencies. If people around the world want dollars because they believe that dollars are good, that they work in their economies, then yeah, that's a really hard tide to stem.
Yeah, I just like there's also this one truth that sometimes that we forget. Like all the governments are the same. I mean, U.S. government is printing freaking dollars, but other governments are not necessarily doing better. And then when crisis happens, it probably start from the fringe, right? So there will be countries that are less stable and smaller market than the U.S. They're probably going to trash their currency first, and then what happened at that time? People will flock to the dollar, and then so yes, I mean, so in a way, it's like a race to the bottom. Um, if you just compare the different fiat currencies, I mean, maybe the U.S. dollar will be outperforming the average. To be,
Yeah.
it could be the likely outcome, right? But if they compare to cryptocurrency, there's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What if you
it's
were to
really difficult to
combine?
see.
Yeah. What if like the dollar was just part of a derivative of a stable coin? Like I think that's the future of it. Like maybe the dollar maintains some dominance and it's like a 60% of a stable coin, right? But then like there's another 40% that comes from other, you know, other economies or baskets or even currencies like Bitcoin, and eventually it shifts. Kind of the dollar phases out a little bit. So Matt, to your point, I don't know that we need a total shift of like the U.S. dominance going away. It's more of just like faith in other things.
Well, there is a challenge because like when you were explaining that basket, it made me think of Libra, and it was like that was exactly the Libra Association's plan to hold this basket of cash and cash like equivalents, and yeah, the powers that be would not allow that. So I think it may take a drastic shift just because the levers of power would fight back against the introduction of things that may displace it. All right. Okay. This I guess is a good time to invite anyone up on stage if you'd like to share anything, ask any questions. Just request the mic and we'll get you up. I guess while we're waiting, rare Pepe collector Cosimo de Medici has been revealed to be Snoop Dogg. Any Snoop Dogg fans?
Nice.
But I think you should probably introduce it for people who didn't hear the story. So there's Cosimo de Medici was a Twitter user who came up really, really quickly and got popular very fast. He didn't create an account till I believe August 30th. And by today, he's well over 20,000, probably higher now since I last looked, 20,000 followers. He was going around, he was making some very big purchases in the NFT markets, giving a lot of really great commentary and saying that he was going to bring in all kinds of celebrities and stuff. And he quickly got a very big following. And also had to be, he was really into Pepes. He was giving some interesting commentary on a Pepe that was created to look kind of like the Mona Lisa. And nobody knew who this guy was. He was completely anonymous until, very recently when he revealed himself to be Snoop Dogg, which is, to me, just, how is this guy into everything? You notice that he's like everywhere. He doesn't really rap too much, but he's like everywhere and everything.
Yeah, he played in like multiple movies across the world. Like there are some memes, video memes with him. Like, yeah, he's doing everything. He's a Twitch streamer. It's super interesting.
Yeah, he did host the. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say I'm actually in a DAO with his manager. It's Beats DAO. It's pretty crazy. Like he's buying into every NFT option that he has. So you're not wrong about that. He's, I guess, the Godfather's got his hands in everything.
So, private global NFT collective formed in the Euler Beats community among 58 collaborators who met on a Discord server.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, actually, Will from our community was the one that enlightened me on it. They're actually doing pods that, I haven't told Kevin about this, but we might look into a pod there where it's pretty cool. So based on like NFT framework at Nervos. So he's also Grimes is a part of that. She's a pretty big NFT activist as well, and her manager's involved. So it's got 99 seats. They're about to go up into the public soon. So definitely keep an eye on them.
Euler Beats are ultra scarce NFTs that are algorithmically generated art and music based on the work of mathematician Leonhard Euler. So the Euler Beats are also fully on chain. Like there's no like IPFS, reference kind of thing. Where's the art? All the data required for the Euler Beats is on chain, which makes them ultra scarce and unique. Any other NFT projects that you guys have seen that are interesting recently?
Yeah, so Time announced timepieces, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think yesterday or 2 days ago. Basically a collection of hand-picked or curated artists that their team picked out, and they're going to do a drop. They originally announced it as doing like each piece was going to be one of 100, and then they got a lot of feedback from the community that was too many and limited. I think it down to maybe like 50 or 25. It's a bit less, but yeah, pretty interesting to see. They're really involved in the NFT space. I know we already referenced an article of theirs from earlier in the episode, but they also did a partnership with Cool Cats, and I think they're doing a show and like a comic series in Time Magazine for kids. And yeah, their president Keith Grossman is like very involved in NFTs.
Yeah, I think anything that creates a lot of intellectual property, like Time probably has all sorts of photographs and things like that. As I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he was just like, it's like having like a down the rabbit hole moment again, like comparing it to like when he first learned about crypto, just thinking about like if Disney were to issue NFTs for all of their characters and everything, it's like it starts to look like a very big world very fast. I don't know if we get there in this bull market. Maybe this bull market never ends as a result of things like this, but yeah, the NFTs continue to be an exciting space. I mean, I know we spend time on NFTs and every week. So this is just this time. So anyone else, feel free to introduce any projects that you've heard about that are interesting.
Yeah, and people can definitely request and come up and share stuff or ask questions that they've got specific to this too. But while we're waiting, I think the cool part about NFTs is that we're just like barely even scratching the surface of what these are going to be capable of. Like right now, there's like cool visual designs and maybe a song or a video or sometimes just a JPEG, obviously. But they are kind of the key to clubs and to bigger experiences and things that you can then be a part of or have exposure to. But they're going to do a whole lot more in interactive ways, in gaming, in DeFi, and yeah. So I definitely don't think we get there in this bull market. Maybe not even in the next one. There's a lot of room to grow for NFTs. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've heard about like there's actually like a couple projects going on that you're literally gonna have to like pay to follow somebody. Like the new Twitter, like to be like a follower, you're gonna have to like have an NFT to like be able to listen to that person talk or actually like engage in certain events and whatnot. So it's stuff like that that's pretty cool. It's like a different paradigm where instead of having a bunch of trolls, you have people like want to follow you. Anyway, that was one I heard about the other day.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. The applications of social media is seems significant when you change that equation.
Yeah. I know. And I know Mark Cuban's starting up Fireside, which again, I don't know exactly all the
It's
details.
like Clubhouse, but
Yeah.
different 2-syllable word.
Is it, but doesn't it have something to do with it's definitely it's on chain, right?
This is the first I've heard about it. So maybe if you have any more information, feel free to share it.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be on a ERC20 sidechain. So it's going to be. I mean, I can't imagine that's going to be a lot of information processed like on the fly. So it's going to have to be a very scalable one.
Yeah, I mean something like Flow, maybe.
No, Flow's not on. Flow's its own blockchain, but yeah, no, it's on a different one.
Yeah, I think the NFT space is very exciting. It feels like the fungible token back in maybe 2017 or maybe even 2016, right? So when it just started to come out and people said, "Oh wow, I can issue my own money on the blockchain. What does it mean?" And then people started to figure out, "Oh, we can use it to raise funding," and that became a big thing in 2017. And then obviously this is all before DeFi and before all these DAO and these concepts came out. I think NFT it's just starting to become exciting, right? And then people start to find out what they can do with it. And but things are happening so fast. I mean, I'm already seeing so many different use cases. I think the listeners here too, and from some of the conversations I have with the entrepreneurs, it has a lot of potential in terms of bringing the crypto into like a much wider community, right? Because fungible token, I mean, very few things in the world are truly functional other than money or things in finance. Most of the things are not fungible, right? So NFTs, when you think about what to bring blockchain technology and real users and real world users and so on, it's pretty much still a blank canvas. And I already talked to some entrepreneurs. They think about how to use NFT to change their industry, how values are distributed in their industry, and it's the same as the banks are controlling the financial system, and this is how crypto could break that, or DeFi. On the same side, I mean, we're seeing a lot of dominant platforms, whether it's entertainment, sports, movies, music. I mean, they're facing the same thing. It's one or two big players are sort of dominating and then enforcing their business model into everybody else. And then now they're seeing NFTs as the technology that can enable a change. Yeah, so it's really interesting. We're seeing a lot of these new thoughts and new wave entrepreneurs coming in to want to use NFT to change their industries. Yeah, I think folks in the Nervos community should see something pretty quick. And yeah, it's interesting time, and it's really exciting to see how things are moving.
Yeah, and you mentioned DeFi and NFTs, and I think one of the next big steps for NFTs is actually assigning them like a value, right? So you have an asset, you have a house, you have a boat, you have a car, you can put that up for collateral. And now that I've seen several projects out there that are kind of creating like basically shorting the market or shorting NFTs, creating a price floor, like people are actually going to be able to use fractional or NFTs to borrow money against. And think about how great that would be to just, you have a great NFT, you throw it up, you can borrow 10 grand to get some liquidity, you can buy the dip and, or buy whatever you want, put a down payment on a house. Like there's a lot of utility, like you said, Kevin.
Yeah, and kind of on the same note on the NFT topic, just thought I'd throw it out there that the Nervos team and actually a good number of the people up on stage here will be attending NFT NYC, the conference in New York at the beginning of November 1st through the 4th. And I actually just saw the other day that they are releasing more general admission tickets to the public, I believe October 3rd. So if it's something that you're interested in going to and don't have tickets yet, they are expanding the capacity and the number of people that they're going to sell tickets to. But we'll have probably some fun NFT announcements and things that will be debuting at the conference, and have a booth there. You guys can come check it out and say hi in person. Really excited, looking forward to the event.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thinking
We have
about,
someone speaking at as well, right?
we do, yeah. So
Yeah, sorry, I was saying someone.
yeah, I think Tanner is supposed to speak there as well. I know I am, and the work that they're doing in terms of pushing the envelope with NFTs has been a subject that's come up from time to time. But it's innovation, so it can be kind of hard to, I guess, for any of us to get our heads around. But I think he has a speaking slot there too, if people are interested in, I guess the how CKB can push NFTs forward, which I think is a incredible topic. If anyone has any thoughts or ideas that they've had around that, yeah, feel free to share.
Yeah, Tanner is building a startup on Nervos platform that is making it easier to use NFTs in meaningful ways. I think he's creating even something like his own like domain language to make it easier to control your NFT. So you not only hold it, but you can also use it, and maybe you have built-in marketplace into your NFT. So I think this could be the next step, and it's extremely important work. So his talk could be pretty interesting. Probably same as yours, Matt, at Cardano Summit. And I think we also have Ren speaking there, who's a lead researcher at Nervos. So yeah, probably pretty interesting stuff about UTXO.
I think Ren and Matt are both speaking, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Ren has a full talk. I'm on a panel about side chains and just kind of like layer 2 in the I guess in the domain. Yeah, so check that out over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, Cardano Summit. I had a thought. I was thinking about the concept of like inviting people to meet in person, and yeah, just the idea that this Nervos community, that like we will connect in person, because there was a time when we did, and then COVID happened, and just the idea that this community has grown so much while we can't see each other in person. It's yeah, things will be dynamic, I think, as we get out of these extreme times.
Yeah, I think Matthew organized a bunch of meetups in US about crypto in general, right?
Yeah, good times. Yeah, looking forward to all that coming back. I mean, I can see it now, but we're not quite at the pace yet. A friend of mine sent me 0x is doing a meetup in San Francisco. I think it's next week, and there's 140 people RSVP'd. And it's like, yep, it's coming back.
Yeah, I think in Europe it's maybe a little bit slow. I mean, there was ECC. I guess there's ETH Lisbon, but yeah, and in terms of like smaller meetups, it's very slow.
All right. I guess I'll do another reminder. If anyone wants to come up on stage and say anything, share anything, ask any questions, feel free. Just request and we'll get you up. How do you guys feel about the crash? Like, is Bitcoin at 44? Like, did we technically crash? I don't know. I don't know anymore. But apparently, fears over Evergrande, the company that owes a lot in China.
So it seems there's some kind of, I have read today that there's some kind of deal about this Evergrande debt. So I wonder if they are going bankrupt or they will be saved.
It's funny because it just feels like a little bit deja vu for me, or for folks like been around for a longer time, because this is kind of the environment how Bitcoin was created back in the last crisis. Yeah, so it works in cycles.
Yeah, with the amount of money being created, it seems, I don't know, like I saw that I think China lended 12 billion or something. Like it seems like we can somehow get over any liquidity crisis today just because of the trillions of dollars that are out there. But that can't last forever, but it feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely felt in around 2008, 2009. I remember at the time, it kind of felt like this as well, maybe even more so after Lehman. It just felt in the beginning was $50 billion and, $20 billion, $50 billion and hundreds billion dollars. And then in the beginning it was very shocking. It was like, wow, that's a big amount of money. And then after that, you just kind of becoming, okay, another $100 billion. And then something else, some other facility I can't even remember, like, oh, this is almost like another $1 trillion. It just kept going at that point. Yeah, it didn't. In the beginning, it was very shocking, and as it went, it was just a trillion here, a trillion there, and who knows? It definitely felt endless.
Yeah, money is a funny thing. I mean, I see this again. The Bored Ape NFT sells for $24 million, and like I have conversations with people where I try to like get out of my head. What does it mean that people can create Bored Apes and these are worth millions of dollars, and somehow the world keeps turning, and it's a similar thing with the printing of trillions of dollars. Like it means something different than I think what we think it is. Somehow it's not. Somehow it just works. The cool thing I like about NFTs is now like anyone can create these assets and they can be worth significant amounts of money. It seems like a substantial shift in the world. So it looks like the audience is shy today.
Yeah, it's the first time no one jumped to
I know.
speak, I think, since we started.
We have 12 more minutes. I think we've gone through. The only other topic is Colombian NFT artist receives warning from Instagram over the sale of cocaine NFTs. I guess it was only a warning. So they didn't kick him off, I guess.
Hello.
Hello. All right, we got somebody on stage. Great.
Sweet. Yeah, hey, so I put in that request more near the beginning of the talk, and maybe it didn't go through. Apologize about that. I'll try to rapid fire these off. First off, thanks, guys, so much for doing this. One, I want to comment, Matt, absolutely. I can't wait till the community can meet up. I'm super excited for that.
Awesome.
I think that's a great idea. You guys had asked about NFTs, NFT projects. Digital AX, Monavale with digital fashion, I think is super interesting. It's something I've been excited about and what their mission is. So I think the community would benefit from doing some research on their project. But hey, do you guys mind if I go back to the beginning conversation, going into what Gary Gensler brought up? Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
You guys are just deep thinkers like me, and I'd love to get your opinion on a thought I've had going through. To play devil's advocate and to assume maybe Gary's not an idiot, what could possibly be his agenda from saying stable coins should be considered securities? And I mean, going back to the topic of, is this going to be consistently inflationary? Is there going to be a deflationary crash? Well, to try to look at both ends, could it be that Gensler and the Treasury Secretary, they want to control where dollars are? The topic of CBDCs and the U.S. seeming to be more careful about their rollout of it. A big question I have is how could they convince the American people to? My neighbor he uses checks and cash for everything still. So the question is, how could they do that? Kevin had brought up until the next crisis happens, and I think that that's very accurate. So what if, for example, there might be, if they can clarify securities, stablecoins as securities, and avoid, especially with Coinbase, where there's a lot of institutional money, to bring their dollars there to get a strong 3-4% plus yield. They can then, through different tax incentives for green infrastructure and things of that nature, that they're going to want that money to go towards, because there's such good yield in the crypto space, but there's the fear of security, hacks, and things of that nature. So Coinbase would be a big step for institutions, big money, to have that security. Could it be, versus just stupidity, a strategic move to control where US dollars go? What do you guys think about that?
Well said.
I think that's very interesting. So what you're basically saying is with their current politics, they are trying to encourage like maybe spending and investments. And if these institutions put their money on Coinbase, they would just be like, these dollars would be just sitting, right?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. And as well, I mean, if you want to go even deeper down the rabbit hole, but truthfully, I don't even believe it's that deep. I think there's a lot of evidence pointing towards it. If you look at SolarWinds hack, and the treasury itself being subject to that hack of these hackers, it's amazing how quickly we forget things. But that wasn't that long ago. You tie in the World Economic Forum and all of its partners and all of this. What if, for example, all of our checks and balances right now are on centralized ledgers at these banks? What if they all got erased? Right. Well, stable coins, dollars, and USDC and all of that, they would be safe. They would be secure. But if they disappeared in the bank, central bank steps in, CBDC says, don't worry, we're going to keep you covered. Get your digital wallet. We'll get you your money back right away. But if that money is all going into a private key ownership, there's less control there. I just wonder if it could be part of a plan of controlling where the dollars go, because will the dollar be overtaken by Bitcoin in the future? I think there's a good strong chance of that, but it's gonna be a while. Right now, Kevin said it right. Our military, we're too strong. There's demand for dollars, demand for U.S. real estate globally. I don't see that happening just yet. So the control of that dollar to me seems so important. And if stablecoins can be classified as securities, that would solve a lot of heartache for that. This was part of the reason why I'm so excited for Yoke Swap and just decentralized exchanges and more flexibility with that. Because I feel like and I'm rambling a lot here, I'm done after this. I feel like these exchanges are going to be under a lot of pressure from that. So that's the last thing I'll say. And I would just love your comments and any criticism, thoughts, agreements with that you guys might have.
Yeah, I think just like if you try to think, so if this institution puts their money on Coinbase to gain, I don't know, 4% or something, well, they could also put it in real estate. I wonder if it's different from putting money in real estate, and like government is not blocking real estate. So I just wonder if there a difference here.
So I think it all kind of boils down to control of all the rails of like where the money's moving through. Like if it stays within the traditional system, then there is some confidence that anything that happens, any actions that agencies would want to take, like they can execute those things. Now, when that money starts to like make its way into on-chain things, it's like though all those stories become much more complicated. And I think with the pace of innovation, it just continues to be more things that they need to keep up with and think about. And if they can just eliminate a lot of that and keep big piles of money off of these systems, I think it does make it a lot easier to magenta
The,
point.
the magenta agenda.
The
Right?
magenta agenda.
Hey,
Sorry,
hey,
it's a
man,
little covered.
I
Thank
know
you.
you bring blue and red together. That's what we get. That's the goal here.
Ah, very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So we got
Thank you for everything.
155.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining, man. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Roman, do you want to go?
Hey, yeah, it's Roman. Yeah, I was wondering, do you guys got any plans working with China with their digital currency with the CKB?
No.
So we definitely support using Tron account on our layer 2, because you can use Ethereum lock or Tron lock to deploy smart contracts and to call smart contracts. So we'll probably be supporting Ethereum wallet and Tron wallet on our layer 2. So we support it like from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, I assume you're asking the CBDC, right? The electronic cash, digital
Yeah, that's
currency,
what I was.
electronic cash.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. If you guys were gonna like collaborate down the road with them, maybe.
Yeah, again, that's not a real cryptocurrency. It's it's more like a digital cash than cryptocurrency. It's not built on the blockchain. I don't think we work with them on that. I mean, that's probably not the right way to put it. It's more like if that were to be released at some point, just like Libra was to be released at some point. I mean, Nervos is a public blockchain, right? So it's very easy to allow these digital currencies, or as long as it's sort of digital signature based systems, it's not very difficult to integrate with them. I guess that's the right way to think about it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. So we've got about 3 minutes. I know Kevin has a hard stop at the top of the hour. So I guess I'd open up to if anyone wants to share any kind of closing remarks, comments. Yeah, feel free.
So maybe Kevin, since you're a guest today, maybe you have something to share at the end of this call for community, or in general, some thoughts about the space or about Nervos.
Yeah. So I think it's my first time here, so it's been definitely fun. I like this format quite a bit, actually. People just jump on and off. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of we talked a lot of entrepreneurs, talked a lot of developers, and then I think on both the DeFi side and NFT side, I think especially on the NFT side, we're seeing a lot of momentum of experienced entrepreneurs that already have a pretty big community, and then just looking into NFTs and looking into how to use NFTs to transform their business. The narrative that it's a narrative that I haven't seen elsewhere in the bigger community or NFT discussions. But then hopefully we'll have something for the community in by the end of this year. So that's it's super exciting.
Awesome. All right. So I guess with that, yeah, thank you, Kevin, for coming on, taking the time and sharing all your thoughts. And thank you to all the other guests and everyone tuning in. So yeah, take care, everybody. With that, we'll close it up.